December 16th, Shaker Tag and Moon Dust. I have the perfect addition for this prompt from my trade partner Barbara from Florida. Hi everyone, Patty here, and let's see what Barbara sent me that's going to work for Moon Dust. I made a few pieces that I can save for later and customize for future journals. Creating several different sizes means more versatility later on. I have small size for page dangles and large tags for going into pockets and having an interactive piece, because you can't pick these up without shaking them. The biggest tip I have for Dephemerember is having masterboards already made and ready for whichever prompt. I made several very generic and all in creams, whites, and tans, so I can change the color for each prompt. I cut this masterboard up from the back, starting with the paper in portrait position. Cut a 5-inch piece off. Next, I changed the position to landscape and cut this into 3 not-so-equal pieces. I didn't measure, and one was a bit chunky. Next, I cut the leftover strip into half, making 2 more tags. That gave me 5 tags to start with. I take these to my sewing machine and sew around the edges. First, I cut the corners to make them into tag shapes. I did this for all 5 pieces. I pulled out another masterboard that I have just stamped my favorite stamps onto off camera. I have several of these sleeves from my chamomile tea that are already in a pocket shape, clear plastic, and will work great for the shaker part of this tag. I measured the size of the tea sleeve and cut my generic masterboard about a 1/2 inch larger so I have room to sew around the edges. My tags are large, but you really should check to see if this size will fit your tag before you start making the shaker part. I lucked out on this step. It only needs to be 1 layer. We don't need to fold this piece over because I will be sewing it directly to the tag, and the tag will be the back. I just measure the tea sleeve to the generic masterboard and cut a piece. But now I find that my punch will not fit into the center of this piece. I want my circle to be in the center, and I don't want to have to go to my storage unit and cut this out with my die cuts. Like turning the square piece is going to help with finding the center with this hole punch. I cut 2 square pieces and had a little left over, so why not make a smaller size shaker? This small size one I can cut with a small circle punch and leave a bit larger gap at the top so I can add an eyelet for a dangle. Getting the circle to punch into the center of the piece is the most challenging, as I didn't measure or put a mark where I wanted the center to be of this piece. If you want a small dangle and you don't get it in the center, cut off any excess after you have punched your hole. Just make sure you're not cutting where the fold was, or you will have 2 pieces and it will be harder to match this small piece up when going to your sewing machine. I find a couple more scraps on my table and cut them into small shaker designs. Now all my scraps are getting cut into small pieces. I did make sure my scraps are large enough to fold over, as these will be freestanding and not attached to a tag. To cut a large circle into the center, I found something the size and shape I wanted and traced around it in the center of the back side of the piece, so I didn't have to erase the trace marks off the front of the circle and end up ripping the piece. To find the center, I just bent the piece and put a small pinch mark into the paper going both directions. Now I can line up my small cup in the center and get the hole to the middle. My way of measuring, but you could find the center with a ruler and mark the center. Just make sure you make your marks onto the back side of the piece. If it's not a square and your paper is one directional, make sure you have the hole going into the place you want with the paper going the direction you want. Yes, the tea sleeve is going to fit also. Now I measure to see if this is going to even fit my tag. There is enough space and I could cut off the edges if need be, but luckily I didn't have to. It fit my sized tag Take scissors and cut out the center. Yes, with this method, your circle may not be as perfect as it could have been with a die cut or a hole punch. And next one we will cut to look a little more kittywampus, so you won't worry about it if you don't cut your circle perfectly. Now to cut out the second hole, but let's leave some edge and fold it over to the right side and ink it up and sew it down. I think adding several different layers would work for this idea, and maybe have some book pages as the other layer to fold up and make a kittywampus opening. I cut some of the circle opening, but I leave a margin that I could fold up and onto the front of the piece. Okay, I really like how this idea worked, and I wish I would have added another layer to the opening to have more pieces folded over to the front. Inking the flaps that I folded to the front adds more depth to this opening, and I will take it to my sewing machine and sew around the edges to keep the flaps down flat. When I was sewing the circle, I ripped it. So to make it not be a mistake, I ripped it again and sewed the ripped part closed and made it look like a design idea, not a mistake. For this tag, I want 3 small circles down the center. Find another scrap that will fit my idea and fit it onto my punch with 3 small circles down the center of the tag. Cut off any excess so it fits your tag. Next tag will have 2 circles and off corners. Cut those circles out from some leftover scraps and check to see if they will fit and make any adjustments. I will find some acetate to add behind some of the circles, as the T-sleeves won't going to fit some of these other pieces that I had cut. I sewed around the edges, adding the acetate to the back of each piece. I left the acetate a bit large just in case of slippage when sewing. I cut off any excess after I sewed the acetate to the punched hole pieces. Align the pieces where you want it on the tag and go back to the sewing machine to sew around 2 edges, leaving a bit enough of a gap to add your moon dust to your shaker tag. Barbara, my trade partner from Florida, sent me circus glitter in a pocket, all closed up. No idea what color or what this looks like, but it is going to be my moon dust, and I knew it as soon as we got the prompts, and after seeing what she had mailed me for our snacks and stash swap, the way she mailed it in this little closed-up, folded-over pouch made it perfect for adding directly to my small openings of my shaker tags. Oh boy, a lot of this comes out fast and it has a mind of its own, so there is no getting some of it back into the pouch or out of this shaker tag. I tried to get it distributed over the 3 circle openings before taking it back to my sewing machine and sewing it up the side I had left open to add the moon dust. Okay, that is fun, and having a piece in your junk journal that is interactive, I think will be a nice addition. I add acetate to the backing of all of the pieces, and only sew around 3 edges so I have room to add the moon dust before I add it to the tag or close it up for a dangle. I tried to be more sparing as I added the moon dust to each pouch. Some got too much, some got too little, but it was fun to shake them up and see if I needed to add more or less as I went along. You can always add more, but it has a static cling to it, so you won't be removing any very easily. I tried, but now we have glitter all over the tiny house to go with the splatters from the last prompt. One of my dogs is black, and so is the cat, and to watch them walk by and sparkle, it adds a bit of a smile to my face. Everyone got a good brushing after this prompt, added a piece of acetate in a diagonal to this tag, made a pouch and added the moon dust before sewing the top edge of the pouch. Cut off any excess off the back of the tag. Keep going till all the pouches are filled and sewn back up. I found another piece in my stash that was already made, and all I have to do to this is add some acetate. I used a ticket die cut to this tag, and it is a different shape and size. Why not add it to my collection? I don't think I have not thoroughly enjoyed each one of these prompts this year, and I'm really loving the format of 2 days on and 1 day off and the weekend off as well. It definitely fits my schedule. I will speed up the process of redundancy here as I cut the acetate for the dangles. If it is not being attached to the tag, then I cut 2 pieces of acetate for each piece, so I can make a pouch to add either my moon dust or make into a specimen card later. I have a tiny specimen card on my planner for this year, and seeing that dangle off the page really adds to the journal. All of our pieces have the glitter added to them, and we are ready to do some decorating and adding some embellishments. I have 2 T tags that are black and say, "Of the Earth." I thought that would look great dangling off a couple of the tags. Another added interactive part to these pouches, because I didn't glue them down. I want them to dangle, and you have to move them back and forth to get them into place when shaking the card. I rearrange and arrange my little scraps to make clusters onto these cards. Getting things arranged in a corner or spot that needs a bit of something, and add a few pieces to balance out your tags. I find that you couldn't write on the back of these tags with all of the stitching, so I decided to add some backing to each piece of the cardstock. After all these tags were cut from one piece of masterboard, so why not glue them back onto a piece of cardstock and recut them out to make sure that the moon dust doesn't leak out and get everywhere. Cut these tags out from the tan cardstocks, and we have 5 tags with a shaker element ready. For the dangles, I added an eyelet and an eyelet to a couple of the tags. You don't want to watch me set an eyelet because I can't seem to get this down very well. I don't have the strength in my hands anymore, and the backs never sink into the shaft of the eyelet. I thought I figured this all out when I got these 2-piece eyelets, and I had solved the problem, but obviously not, as I still had difficulty. A little trim to the tops of our pieces, and we have some gorgeous interactive shaker cards for our journals. I can't say I've ever added shaker cards to my journals, but I found myself shaking these pieces and watching that moon dust float around. One idea for the trim I used on top of a couple of these tags is an old scarf that is all polyester, and I never used it, so I cut it up for the colors, of course. Gold and this red, but more brown, mahogany or rust-colored scarf. I love the colors, but the material is slippery as a scarf, and I never wore it. You have to cut it as it doesn't rip very well. It frays nicely, which is a plus. Love the way it looks on the tags. Another fun prompt. I outgrew the decorative box that Barbara from Florida sent me with my finished projects. I outgrew the plain box that I was putting my finished projects into, and now I'm into a tote. Will I outgrow it also this Dephemerember? Again, a big thank you to Louisa and 49 Dragonflies for their great ideas, freebies, prompts, and every video they have put out. I love it. Have a great day now. Bye.